Video game reviews online have been the cause of a lot of controversy. Many YouTubers publish their reviews on games to their audience with the intention of informing said audience of what to expect out of their purchase of a game. There are also journalistic publications that publish their reviews of games to their websites and YouTube for the same purpose. Whenever I want to know whether or not I should play a game, I tend to look for an in-between. I don't want to watch somebody sponsored by the game they're talking about telling me whether that game is good or bad because there's a bias there. I also don't tend to listen to major game publications in their reviews of games because of the same thing, and also just because it's unnatural and weird most of the time.
The way he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
It's hard to trust a game review from most people, especially reviewers who got games early, because games at launch can be too variable, too patch dependent, and too driven by incentives for one single review to feel trustworthy. Take the release of Cyberpunk 2077 for instance. Many people would agree now that it's a fantastic game, but we all remember how buggy and virtually unplayable the game was at its launch. The PS4 and Xbox One versions being the worst, with Sony and Xbox issuing out refunds to people who bought the game and removing it from their storefronts. It was a disaster. And did any major reviews highlight these issues before release? Not really. Some reviewers mentioned a couple bugs and glitches here or there, but there were practically no reviews that seemed to capture the experience most people had with the game on launch day. Like with most other AAA releases, it had 10 out of 10s across the board, 5 out of 5 stars, Game of the Year taglines in abundance, despite not being that out the gate at all. 5 years later, patched up, it feels like now we're experiencing that 10 out of 10 game those reviewers raved about, but at that time people were blindsided. It's shit like that that shows why you can't trust what game reviewers have to say about games nowadays, and you really either need to wait for the game to come out and see for yourself, or wait until somebody unaffiliated with the games industry makes a video describing what the game is really like. It's almost an unwritten rule amongst a lot of people to not even consider what an IGN has to say about a game before it drops. It's clear that in most reviews, these reviewers were playing PC versions of Cyberpunk, and while that is relevant for people who were going to play the game on that platform, many players, especially at the time, were buying the game to play on their PS4 and Xbox One systems, especially because of how limited and expensive that PS5 and Xbox Series consoles were at the time. The reviews didn't lie, but before you bought the game, you wasn't given a proper display of the full truth, and at that point, what are the reviews even for? Now, you would assume Cyberpunk was a one-off occurrence, but things like that still persist even now. Nothing is more confusing than the discourse around the latest AAA release, Crimson Desert. There was years of hype and discourse around this game from the moment it was announced, and people had high expectations. But now that it's out, I see it as a modern example of how players still struggle to figure out what's real before release. You've got trailers that look insane, combining aspects of what seems to be every game that's been successful over the last 10 years into one package, but then mixed reactions from people who've actually seen or played parts of it. None of it lines up cleanly. One review will say that it's the next big thing, another one says that it's rough, another one says that you have to play it for 8 hours before it gets good, and it's just weird and confusing. What's the consumer to do? This is why nobody trusts one single source for insight into purchasing a game. Because how could you? You have to take pieces and put it together yourself and have a level of skepticism when it comes down to every game release. And games aren't like movies or music where the bar for entry is lower in terms of price. You gotta pay $70 out the gate to even engage with a game. So I want a way to know whether or not my money is going to be worth investing into. I know there are people who didn't even think the game was real based on the way that it was looking in those previews, and didn't let themselves buy into any of its marketing because we've been down this road before. And that's the real issue. With Cyberpunk, people trusted the reviews and got burned. Now with Crimson Desert, people can't trust anything. You can't trust the trailers, you can't trust the previews, you can't even trust the early impressions from people pre-release. Instead of trusting the system, people have created their own, watching multiple creators, waiting for gameplay, comparing opinions, which is basically doing all of the work that a game review is supposed to do in the first place. And that's a failure on those reviewers. We went from being misled to not trusting anything. And I just don't think that is fair that when somebody does do their due diligence and tries to research a product before they buy into it, they're met with a bunch of misinformation and bullshit that doesn't properly reflect what the product that they're going to be receiving is. And That's just not good. There's no reason why I should pay $70 into a game and be shocked that it doesn't even fucking work on my platform. I'm just talking about consoles. There's people who are saying the base PS5 version of Crimson Desert is shitty and bug ridden. That's unacceptable. And that's something that in most game publications reviews are not being highlighted or discussed or talked about. It's just weird, and it's just not fair to the consumer that you basically have to do intensive research before you buy most games, because there's a chance that this shit just might not even work. And on some platforms like PlayStation, you're not given a 2-hour window to play the game and you could get your refund. No, if you buy a game on PlayStation for $70 and you don't like the game or the game doesn't work or whatever, unless there's a very, very special case like the Cyberpunk case that I mentioned, you're not gonna get your money back. You're stuck with that shit. And it's just not fair. That's all I have to say. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and also tell me, how do you feel about game reviews in the modern day? Do you think that most game reviews give an accurate description of what it's like to play a game, or do you think that there's an inherent bias within most reviews and you don't know who to trust? Let me know in the comments whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I appreciate it all, and like I said, like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I'm gonna be doing some more. Thank you and have a nice day.